Chertoff, who is a member of the House Select Committee on Intelligence. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Let's start with you.
Great. Let's start with a simple question. Tell us why you are taking the president's claims seriously. After all, you're on the Intel Committee. What hard intelligence do you have to support his claims?
Oh, my heavens. The problem is we've got all sorts of claims made by all sorts of people and news organizations that we don't have evidence of right now.
What specifically are you talking about, all sorts of claims made by all sorts of news organizations?
Well, for example, we've had some people claim that there's direct ties between Trump campaign officials and Russian KGB or GRU agents. I'm not unaware of any of those.
What news organizations have claimed that?
Well, I think there's several, but that's not the point. I mean, I could say who they were, but that's not the point.
Could you? Because I don't think any news organization actually claimed that there were direct ties between the Trump campaign and Russian spies.
Well, certainly that's a narrative. I mean, that's what we've been talking about for a couple weeks, isn't it? This kind of idea that there may be claims of that. And that's what the Intelligence Committee is trying to determine. And I mean, I listened to your monologue introduction, and I certainly respect your view, and I think you have a point of view there. But I think it's an indication of why this is best done in a serious body that's nonpartisan, and the Intel Committee is by and large nonpartisan, and it's also not done in, where people can grandstand or where people can make claims, whether it's a president or whether it's other individuals who make claims that really the facts don't substantiate them yet. And we're determined that we'll investigate this wherever it takes us. There's other things that we are looking at as well that are at least as important as this. And we make a commitment to the American people. We'll find out, and then we'll report back to the American people.
Do the American people have a reason to trust anybody in Congress right now to do things in a nonpartisan way? After all, the infighting between the two parties, don't they deserve a special prosecutor or some sort of independent committee that does not have ties to the Republican or Democratic Party?
But see, that's why I think that the Intelligence Committee is different than that. And I guess I would ask you, I say, give us evidence of the Intel Committee being partisan, or give us evidence of the Intelligence Committee working in a partisan fashion, because I don't think that we have. Generally, we've agreed on these things, and we've been able to reach across the aisle, which is, once again, why it's important to do this, not with the cameras blazing, but in a more serious fashion. And in regards to a special prosecutor, I think there's sometimes a role for that, but we've also seen times where special prosecutors failed as well.
Let's get back to the original question, Congressman. Do you believe that there is reason to investigate and figure out whether, do you believe that there is a reason to investigate whether President Obama wiretapped Donald Trump's phones?
I think that there's been an accusation made, and so we have to be responsible.
There's been an accusation made. He stated it as a fact. He didn't say we should investigate. He said this as a fact happened.
Well, okay, to me, that's an accusation, and if there's been an accusation made, and I don't know why you would object to us investigating that. If we investigate it and we say, no, that's not true, then the American people know. If we investigate it and we find evidence of it and we share that with the American people, once again, then they know. Isn't that a better outcome than just kind of putting your hands over your ears and saying, no, we don't want to look at that? I don't think the American people would support that.
My question more is, Donald Trump said this on Twitter on Saturday morning. He presented no evidence to support any of his claims. The White House has presented no evidence to support any of his claims. His White House spokespeople don't seem to know where he got that information from. All anyone can tell by tracing the origin of this story, it came from a right-wing radio, and then to Breitbart News, and then to the president. So if he is saying now you must investigate it without offering any evidence to do so, is that oversight on Congress's part? Is it capitulation on Congress's part? Or is it collusion on Congress's part?
I love that. Yeah, it's certainly collusion. Once again, I think that's one view. I'm not sure that I agree with that. Look, once again, we've had an allegation here. What should we do? Say, no, we're not going to investigate that? And then if there's other allegations, to say, no, we're not going to investigate that either? We don't get to pick and choose which allegations we pursue and which we don't.
So
we owe it, frankly, to you. We owe it to your listeners. We owe it to the American people to say, we will investigate wherever this takes us. We're not going to say we're going to go down this path and we're not going to go down that. That's not a responsible investigation. And frankly, I got to tell you, I think it's nuts for you to suggest that that's what we should do. How can I go to the American people and say, I'm not going to investigate these allegations?
Why aren't you taking the same sort of, why aren't Republicans taking the allegations that Russia interfered into the election?
Oh, my heavens. Why would you say that?
In the same way that you are getting about this topic.
Give me evidence of us doing that. We've been looking at that since September. I think it's nuts for you to come on and say we didn't take that seriously. We've been doing that since September. I was in Moscow in August, and I came back and I said,
of evidence to support.
If you let me finish my thought and answer the question, I came back in August and said Russia's going to interfere with our elections. We started holding hearings on this in September. It's just simply not true for you to say that we didn't take it seriously. We absolutely have taken it seriously. We've had a number of investigations about this, a number of hearings, and we're just barely getting started. We'll continue to look into this.
Do you believe that the FBI director, James Comey, is lying when a U.S. official tells NBC News that he asked the DOJ to rebut it? Do you believe he's lying when he says that Donald Trump was not wiretapped?
Of course I don't. Of course I don't.
Do you believe the Director of National Intelligence, the former Director of National Intelligence, was lying?
No, of course not. I would never accuse any of these individuals.
So why would they not know about this?
Well, again, I'm not saying that they didn't know. I'm saying, of course, they didn't lie. But, you know, as an example, coming back to one of the previous analogies I made, there's certainly a narrative that the Trump administration is tied to the Russians in some way to influence the campaign. There's certainly that's out there. And the DNI, the previous DNI, said yesterday, we have no evidence of that. Therefore, would you want me not to pursue that? Of course we will. We'll pursue all of these veins of investigation. We owe it to people to be conclusive and to be thorough in this.
Congressman Stewart, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good to be with you. Thanks so much.